Hi, this is Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the special Pesach program of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. This is the obviously it's a small audience because you can't have more than two people in the same room anymore in Eretz. So it's one person was clapping. Next time, you know what? We'll both clap. It's the special Pesach program of the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And a round of applause. Thank you very much. As you know, this is going to be a very special Pesach because we're in lockdown, and there are a lot of young people who are going to be making their first Seder, not by choice. Yeah, there are some older people who are being very careful not to be exposed, which is, of course, reasonable. And so there are certain parents who are disinviting their children. Not that they haven't waited for this for many years. And now they have an excuse. I would love to have you and the kids, but so I thought that this year, because I just ran through a little bit of last year's Pesach program. I was so incredibly impressed by how well I did it. Yeah, that I didn't think there's really much more for me to have to say. Yeah. So I'm going to focus on something very specific this year, especially because there are going to be people who are going to be running their own Seder. And I thought what I would do is try to give you some Haggadah insights. Now, we had one last year, and I noticed that I really only focused on one aspect. So I'm not going to do actual, I'd like to do something a little bigger than just Pshetlach, but I always say that the most important thing, everybody has to see themselves as if they came out of Mitzrayim, which means that it has to be a message that is relevant to where we are in life and who we are as people, and to the participants. And the Gemara tells us that the youngest child asks the Manish Tana. If you don't have a child, then the wife asks the husband. If you're by yourself, you ask the questions to yourself. So it's interesting that at the end of the day, we have to answer our own questions at the Seder. We have to make it something that's going to be relevant, not just for the participants, but also for ourselves. And specifically in these times, when there are communities, in Bayis Hashem Sham Meis, where people have suffered so many terrible, terrible tragedies. It's important for us to be able to take the Pesach message and, as best as we can, make it meaningful for us. So I would like to actually start the Haggadah. And last year, in the podcast that was entitled Haggadah Insights, I basically spoke about the Kadesh or Chatz. I want to now move forward. Yeah. So the first thing we do is after we break the middle matzah and we start the Seder, we lift up the matzah and we say, Halach ma'anya. Yachalav asana b'yardei Mitzrayim, kodich v'yesei v'yecho, koditzrich yesei v'yifsach, hashatach l'shana haba b'yardei Yisrael, hashatav dei l'shana haba b'nei chorin. That was the tune my father used to use. This is the way he used to say it is the bread of affliction. This is the bread of affliction. Halach ma'anya. The Achol upon the son of Aaron of Mitzrayim, there are forefathers ate in Egypt. All who are hungry come and eat. All who need to make Pesach come and make Pesach. Now we are here. Next year we'll be in Eretz. Now we are slaves. Next year we will be free. And this is a very strange paragraph. Because, there's a din by the Korban Pesach. If you want to be part of the Korban Pesach, you have to join before the Shechita, before the Korban is offered. You can't walk in Pesach night and say, oh my gosh, I forgot to take care of being in a Chabura, could I join yours? You can't. You had to be there when the Korban was brought to be shechted, and you can't suddenly wake up later and say, oh, I got left out, could I join now? So what do you mean, all who need come and make Pesach? And we say, anyone who's hungry, come in and eat, but we already made Kiddush. So that's kind of strange. Wouldn't you invite in the guests before Kiddush? Why would you be doing it now? Yeah. So this is the matzah that we ate in Egypt. Because there is a duality to the matzah. There is the matzah from Egypt, and there is the matzah that we baked after we came out of Egypt, and we say the bread did not have a chance to rise, and they baked it as matzahs when they got there. Those are two different matzahs. And that's why when it comes to Rabbi Gamliel Omer, and it says matzah zu, the Abarbanel says, matzah zu shanu ochlim, this matzah, because we ate matzah in Egypt the night before. So you have to understand about a Pesach Seder. Let's talk about what the Pesach Seder was supposed to be. You brought your Korban Pesach in the Beis HaMikdash, and the Korban Pesach was to be eaten by a chabura, by a group of people who were joining together. You want the group to finish the Korban Pesach because anything that's left over becomes noisar and you have to burn it. And you don't want that to happen to the Korban, so you want to make sure you eat it. But because it's celebrating the freedom and the redemption, you can't have the Korban Pesach as your main course, where you're sitting down and eating. Oh, no, I'm so hungry. You understand? So therefore, it's sort of like dessert. It was a dessert. The afikomen, was the matzah that we eat at the end of the Seder, the afikomen, is zecher to the Korban Pesach. You ate it at the end, and everyone got a kazayas, size of an olive of the meat. The idea was to make sure that everyone ate it after they were already full. And you wanted the people to be able to finish it. So the korban has to be less than a year old. So a sheep or a goat that's less than a year old. I asked somebody, I don't know if he knows, but he certainly sounded authoritative. How many kazesim can you get to a less than 1 year old sheep or goat? He guesstimated 50 kazesim. So since you want everybody to finish it, everyone's going to just eat a kazayis of it because they're going to fill it beforehand. So that means that every chabura was, bonagid, 50 people. How many Korban Pesach did they bring? The Gemara says that 1 year they did a count, and there was 1.2 million Korban Pesach that were brought. Assuming it was on 50 people to a Korban, let's say the guy was wrong and it was less. You're talking anywhere between 30 and 50 million people who were bringing the Korban Pesach. 30 to 50 million people. And you had to eat it within the walls of the old city. And you couldn't be upstairs, you had to be downstairs. The next time you complain about your Seder being crowded, just think about the fact that 50 million people were eating their Korban Pesach, was having their Seder inside of the walls of the old city. Must have been Unbelievable. Yeah. Every Seder was on top of each other. So what was the Seder? Obviously, the focus was the Korban Pesach, which was on the table. In matzahs umrorim tokluhu, you will eat it with matzah and maror. But matzah and maror were the subsidiaries to the Korban Pesach. They came along with it, and that's why Hillel felt that since the matzah and maror are coming with the Korban Pesach, he would take the roast lamb, put it in the matzah with the maror, and put it together. Now, if you use the matzahs that we have today, so you know when you do koyrich and you just take the lettuce and the matzah, you take a bite, the whole thing crumbles on you, you're picking it off of you. It's not the same. But in the old days, what was matzah? The Gemara gives you the recipe. You take flour and water, you mix it up as a dough, you slap it on the side of the tanur, and then you peel it off. Today we call that a lafa, or an eish tanur. Yeah, they call it, whatever. It's one of those big round, like pita types of bread. So now you understand Hillel made a little more sense. You take one of these, you put in the roasted lamb, you put in the lettuce, you roll it up, you dip it in the charoses. He invented shawarma. That's where shawarma came from. It was Hillel. And then you would lean back on your couch, because, you see people try to do haseba on a chair without any arms, They had a couch. They leaned back on the couch. They had a glass of warm wine because their wine was concentrated. And they added 3 parts of warm water to it and stirred it up. So they lean back on their couch with their shawarma and their warm wine. This used to be a much better religion. And that's why one of the 4 questions was, during the year we can eat our meat boiled or roasted or pickled or however we want it baked, and now we only eat it sleep, because the Korban Pesach was the center of everything. Everybody was focused on the Korban Pesach, and everyone had to be b'tahara, right? Everyone had to go and get spritzed with the mechatas a week beforehand. Everyone had to go to the mikvah. Everyone had to. Yeah, you're sitting there, b'kedush v'tahara, inside the walls of Yerushalayim with your korban. You can imagine that must have been a mind-blowing experience. That was a Seder. Asks the Chassam Sofer, why is this in Aramaic? Why are we writing this in Aramaic? And he says, because this was obviously added in later, after the Korban. And the first thing we say when we start our Seder, we've already made Kiddush, we've already sat down. We start off by saying the following. This is a Ke'ilu Seder. This is a shadow of a real Seder. You know why? We don't have any Korban Pesach. So anybody who wants can come in and join right now, because all bets are off. Yeah. And that's what we say. Now we're here, and next year we'll be in Erzfeld. Now we're slaves. Next year we'll be free. Because that's the bottom line. That's what we're trying to give across. If you will, a virtual Seder. Yeah. So that we should know that this is not the real Seder that we're supposed to be shooting for. And then we do the Manish Tana. Like I say, if you have a little kid, the little kid will say it. If not, if you have an older kid, the older kid will say it. If not, then the wife asks the husband. If not, then the person says it to themselves. However your Seder is working. Manish Tana Laila Zerikor Lilos. There's only one question. Why is this night different than all other nights? All of the questions are there to point out a contradiction. The contradiction is, I know we have happy holidays. We have Shavuos, we have Sukkot, we have Purim. I know we have sad holidays. Tisha B'Av, Shavuos B'Tammuz. What's today? Is today a happy day or is it a sad day? Well, I see we're eating matzah, which is lechem halachma anya. It's poor bread of suffering. I see we're eating maror, which is bitter. That tells me that this is a sad day. And then I see we're dipping and we're reclining like wealthy people. What is today? Is today a happy day or a sad day? Why is this night different than all the nights? Why can't I make this into a night that I can understand? And that's the question. The question is the contradictions of the Seder night. On the one hand, it looks like we're being slaves. On the other hand, it looks like we're being free people. So which one is it? And the answer we give is Avadim Ayinu Leparo b'Mitzrayim. Avadim Ayinu Leparo b'Mitzrayim. Avadim Ayinu Leparo b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves to Paro in Egypt. And God took us out. That's the answer. I remember that Moshe Shapiro said clearly that the Korban Pesach is a Korban Torah. We're thanking God that He took us out, from Egypt. And that's why when the kid says, all the nights we eat chametz, so the way we usually read that is, all the nights you eat chametz or matzah, but you could read it as, all the nights we eat chametz and matzah. When do we eat chametz and matzah? There's only one time. At a Korban Torah. You bring 40 breads, 30 of them are matzah, and 10 of them are chametz. So he's saying, obviously this is a Korban Torah. So how come we don't have any chametz with it? I remember when we were in Shir, so somebody said to Rabbi Moshe, well, if it's a Korban Torah, why aren't there 40 matzahs? And Rabbi Moshe gave him a look, and we all ducked, because we understood that what Rabbi Moshe meant is it's conceptually a Korban Torah, not that it's actually a Korban Torah, But I guess he appreciated that this was the fellow doing the best that he could with the skills that he had. So he says, Kol dichven yeseh v'yechal, Rashi Tevos is 40. Moshe was very quick. He would come up with these things very quickly. A Rebbe once said to him, you should always have milk with coffee before you davening, right? For Shachris, you have milk and coffee. Why? Because you should go to the mikvah beforehand. And in Yiddish, coffee is kava, and chalav is 40, so it equals mikvah. So Moshe says, you don't need milk. You can just put it in a glass. That also equals 40. Anyway, so he was very quick, But it's conceptually a Korban Torah. What's a Korban Torah? A Korban Torah is after you find yourself in a life-threatening situation, you cross the sea, and again, we take it for granted today that the boat will come across, but you have no idea how many shipwrecks there have been throughout history. You crossed the desert, you were sick, you got better, you got out of jail. After any of these things, you would bring a Korban Torah. Thank HaKadosh Baruch. Today, we don't have the Korban, we still have the concept. That's the idea of a Sudas Haidah, to celebrate. After I died, I got better, but 2 major doctors told me I was supposed to be dead when I had my heart attack. And apparently HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want me, so he sent me back. So I, of course, on the anniversary, make a Sudas Haidah. Not as dramatic as my brother. My brother was shot. Yeah, a disgruntled employee shot him. He turned his head so that instead of the bullet going into his head, it just shot off the tip of his nose. And one went through his arm. It could have gone right into his heart. So he makes a Suda Hada. It was on Hoshana Rabbah. And he credits the fact that he was in shul and he was beating the Hashanas to beat the din down. That's the reason that he survived. But he makes a Suda Hada every year in Hoshana Rabbah, yeah. So the first year, when he first came back from the hospital, and he made his first Suda Hada, so he asked me to speak. Somebody said to me, I've never been to one of these. Do you bring a gift? I said, you mean like a bulletproof vest? You know what I mean? What does that mean, Anyway, I went to speak at the Suda Hada, and he was wearing a bandage on his nose. There was one guy who was giving out bandages to everybody to put on their nose, in sympathy, recognition. But in any event, I went to speak at the Suda Hada. And I said, there's an obvious contradiction in the Suda Hada. And that is that we're thanking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the fact that after I became deathly ill, I got better. Thanks for nothing. Like a guy who throws somebody off of a bridge and then jumps in afterwards to save him, So what do you want me to do? Thank you for saving me after you're the one who threw me in? You made me sick. You put me into this situation. Then you got better. Shkoyach. Better you shouldn't have done this to me in the first place. Mizmor Soda, which is the tefillah that we would say when we brought Korban Tomen, yeah. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, bo lefanav b'ranana. Come to him with singing, with happiness. De'u ki Hashem hu Elokim, hu asanu, he made us, v'lo anachnu, and not us. Now there's a Korean ksiv over here. That means it's read one way and it's pronounced another way. V'lo anachnu, we belong to him, but that's how you pronounce it. But v'lo anachnu, and not us. Very strange. Yeah. A Korean ksiv, but they both sound exactly the same. I don't know what the difference is between lo with the lamed aleph and cholim and a lamed and a vav. Yeah. What's the difference? They both sound exactly the same. So you read it as Du'u ki Hashem Elokim, Hashem is God, hu asanu, he made us, v'lo anachnu, we belong to him. Or you can read it as Hashem hu Elokim, he made us, v'lo anachnu, and not us. So, which one is it? Yeah. So the answer is, it all depends. Depends what you're holding in life, whether you read it as lo, we belong to him, or lo, and not us. So Rabbi Noach Weinberg had a famous story. This guy comes to him, and he says, he's encouraging him to come and spend a few weeks learning in yeshiva. He says, Rabbi, I don't have to learn in yeshiva. I already have a great relationship with God. He says, you do? He says, yeah, God does miracles for me. He said, he does? And he says, yeah. He says, well, what do you mean? One time I was driving my motorcycle on this mountain road, and it was very narrow, and all of a sudden the truck comes swinging around and ran me off the road. And I fell off the side of the mountain, and I landed among rocks, and I had nothing broken. I had the wind knocked out of me, but that was it, and I was fine. God does miracles for me. So Noach said to him, that's unbelievable. I have only one question. Who pushed you off the mountain? If you believe that God saved you, you have to believe that God arranged for you to be pushed off the mountain. There's not two gods. Du'u ki Hashem hu Elokim. Hashem, Midas Arachamim, Hu Elokim, is also the Midas Adin. We only have one God. The same God who pushed you off the mountain is the same one who miraculously saved you. Hanachtela says he was once in a cab, and the guy lost control, and he headed to the side of the mountain, and the front wheels went over the side before he was able to stop the cab. And he turned to Hanachtela and he says, "You see, God does miracles for me." And he says, I took out a piece of paper, I wrote down Reb Noach Weinberg's phone number, and I handed it to him and said, "This man wants to ask you a question." Oy. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushed you off the mountain and then saved you. And now you want me to say thank you? So the answer is, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha bo lefanav renana. Be happy in your Judaism. And if you're not happy, so I'm going to put you in a situation where you're going to be in trouble and you're going to come looking for me. So what Noach Weinberg said to this person is, why would God push you off the mountain and then save you? I think he's trying to get your attention. I think he's trying to tell you something. I think he wants you to spend a few weeks learning in yeshiva. But the Korban Torah is telling us that when we bring the Bikurim, we make a little speech, and that's the speech that is at the second half of the Haggadah, the 4 psukim that we darshan. And basically what we're saying is we went down to Egypt, and we became a great nation. And then we started to assimilate, and then the Egyptians did evil to us, and then Hashem took us out and saved us. Those are the 4 psukim we darshan. The end of that little speech is, and he brought us to Israel, and now I'm bringing you my first fruits. And I bring it with happiness, and I celebrate. Because if we're happy being Jews, and we're happy doing what we're supposed to be doing, there's no problem. I saw somebody brought down a story, I apologize, I forgot who brought it down, about the Rebbe Elimelech and his brother, the Rebbe Zusha. And the 2 of them were in prison. And they wanted to daven, and they realized they couldn't daven because the slop pail, which was their version of a toilet, the slop pail was there, and they couldn't daven because it was there. The Rebbe Elimelech starts crying, and Reb Zusha, the finest Hasidic tradition, says, "What are you crying? We're doing Avodas Hashem. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that we can't daven because of the slop pail, then by not davening, we're doing Ratzon Hashem." The person was bringing this to explain the fact that we can't daven up in Yonim now, we have to daven at home. So he says, the slop pail is letting us do Ratzon Hashem. Let's celebrate. The 2 of them start singing and dancing. Oh, the slop pail, the slop pail. Oh, yeah, the slop pail. Oh, yeah, the slop pail, the slop pail. Yeah, I don't know the exact tune. And all the goyim and the other cells, they caught on, and everyone's singing, the slop pail, the slop pail. Eventually, the guards come and say, "What's going on here?" So the goyim say, "I don't know. The Jews are singing because they have a slop pail." He goes, "Oh yeah? Then I'm going to take it away." They took it out, and then they look at each other. They go, "Okay, now let's daven." Because whatever comes your way, if you're happy you have Avodas Hashem, you don't need anything else. If you're not happy, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to remind you. Hu asanu v'lo anachnu, and not us. We're not God. Because Baruch Hu is God. We think we know better. We think how we're supposed to do things. Life's tough, huh? Filled with challenges. When something happens, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu throws you off the mountain and then miraculously saves you, he's trying to tell you, v'lo anachnu, with an aleph. It's not us. But if we understand below anachnu, when we belong to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we don't need everything else. Hashem will Elokim. Everything makes sense. And so therefore, when something happens, we're obligated to try to figure out why it happens and what the meaning of it is for us on a personal level. Noach Weinberg used to say, the Gemara says that just before a baby is born, the Malach hits him right over here, and he forgets all his Torah. In the womb, he's taught all of the Torah, and when he comes out, the Malach hits him and he forgets him. So he says, what's the purpose of teaching the baby all the Torah and then having him forget it? It's to teach you that all of life is remembering the truth, searching for the truth that you already know inside. So what's truth? Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, secular humanism, science. What is the truth? So Noach says it's to teach you that when you start looking for the truth, the first place you should look is right under your nose. And what I said at my brother's Suda Saidah was, and maybe if you can't see it because your nose is too big, God has to shoot off a piece of it. Well, that was an extremely poor taste. But, but the point remains the same. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us through things so that we can then stop and say, okay, God, 2 doctors told me I was supposed to be dead, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu kept me alive, and every day that I wake up I'm living on borrowed time. It's extra time. And people ask me about the coronavirus. Are you worried? Because I'm over 60 and I have diabetes and I have heart disease, so I'm high risk. And I said, if God wanted to take me, he would have taken me already. He had the chance. He obviously doesn't want me. It was just my brother's yahrzeit. He died, a young man. I say young man, he was over 60, but that's young. My mother made it to 89. So my mother's sitting shiva for her son, and everybody would come in. She'd ask the same question. Why? Why did God take him? I said to God, take me. I'm old. Yeah, my life is over. Take me. He's a young man. He has children to marry off. Why? Why, God? Why did you take him? Now, what do you answer a mother who's lost a child like that? Elderly woman who's not well. So I couldn't fly because I was after my operation. So I called up to Menachem over my mother on the phone. And she said to me, why did God take him? Why didn't God take me? I said, God doesn't want you. You're an old cranky lady. My brother Jay, he was a lot of fun. He didn't want you. She says to me, that's the first thing anybody said that makes any sense. Towards the end, she was in a lot of pain. She was 89. She was really suffering terribly. And she told one of her visitors, I'm trying not to be so cranky, so maybe God will take me. Yeah. But, a friend of mine, he was in the terrorist attack of Ben Yehuda, and he had pieces of shrapnel in his skin that they couldn't get out. And somebody asked, does it hurt? And he says, no, but when it gets cold, I feel it getting cold inside of me. So he says, so you're going to go back home? And he says, no, every bullet has a name on it. Yeah, nothing is random because Baruch Hu knows who you are, what's going to happen. Yeah. So the Korban Pesach, yeah, as we sit down to the Seder, we ask the Manish Tana, is this a happy day or is this a sad day? And the answer is both. We were slaves to Paro, and God took us out. But it's not that we happened to be in bad situation. It was just bad luck that we were slaves. Kadosh Baruch Hu arranged for that to happen because that's what we needed to happen. If we didn't need it, it wouldn't have happened. We suffered what we suffered because we had to. As Tosfos says in the Gemara in Brachos, where it says you should never favor one of your children because of the money that was spent buying Yosef a nicer coat, as Megalgal, and we ended up going down to Mitzrayim. Gemara and Shabbos. And Tosfos asked, what do you mean? We already knew from the first rate of Psalm we were going to go down to Egypt. So he says, it wouldn't have been so bad. If it didn't come about through sinna, didn't come about through hatred, it wouldn't have been so bad. We got what we needed to get in order to become the people we had to become. We don't always like the way it plays out. But it's not bad luck. It didn't just happen to be. Amazing, amazing, amazing concept. So when we sit down to the Seder, yes, there are contradictions. There's sad parts and happy parts because we understand that the sad parts didn't happen on their own. When you bring a Korban Toida, you don't say, oh, I just have to be in a bad situation. I once heard Mati Berger say, it's a comic book reference. You know how much I enjoy those. Yeah. He says people have the impression, that Jimmy Olsen finds himself in trouble, and he had this little button he would push on his watch, and Superman would hear it, and he'd fly in and save the day. That's what a Kodesh Baruch Hu is. Through just bad luck, we have found ourselves in trouble. No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the same one who pushed you off the mountain, is the same one who saved you. Things don't happen by themselves. It's not just by chance. Homer Simpson, I remember reading quotes once in the bathroom link reader. They juxtaposed quotes from Homer, the Greek, and Homer Simpson. And it was interesting how many times they overlapped. But he had this one quote where he said, I've never been a religious man, but if you're up there, save me, Superman. That's not how it works. And we're remembering that and we're celebrating that. And then Hashem took us out and saved us. And that's the first idea that I wanted to focus on when we come to the Seder. That the Seder has a certain melancholy to it. You eat an egg at the Seder. Why? Because the same day of the week that the Seder comes out is also the same day of the week that Tisha B'Av comes out. Tisha B'Av will be a Wednesday night, Thursday this year. So it's not just a cute coincidence. It's because in Tisha B'Av, when we look at the Korban, on Tisha B'Av it says the Mashiach will be born. On Tisha B'Av, it will turn around and become a day of Simcha. It's going to change around. Avadim Hayinu, it was horrific. Beings and starving and children being used as bricks and slaughtered for their blood. And what a terrible, terrible experience. And we understand at the end that all of that was a necessary phase for us to become the people we were supposed to become. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. It wasn't bad luck. So that's the first idea I wanted to bring across. We will talk more about Pesach in these special Pesach podcasts. But that's it for this week. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to my website, RorLofsky.com. You can read comments. You could email me. If you want to join our online shiurim, and this would certainly be the perfect time, we have our Daf Yomi Gemara share, which we just made later because so many people are home. It's now 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have Mesilas Yesharim, two of them, one on Sunday and one on Monday. And you can sign up for those. You can download the video, karaoke version of it, rather, to be able to sing while you're all locked up over there. Certainly a wonderful way to spend some family time together. And that's it for this episode. I'm David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.